In the description are my three films, The Trap, Case of Death, and The Man Who Died. If you enjoy them, pass them on to other people. Much appreciated. The visual effects in this movie were done by Bob Keane, who done either Hellraiser or one of the Hellraiser films. I can't remember which. And Candyman. So this guy went on to do some really good work. He done some really good work in this movie. And apparently he was kind of like one of them guys like Rob Bottin, who done the effects for The Thing in 1982. And, there's rumors, long stretching rumors that Rob Bottin, he lived in the studio because he was working so fucking hard at doing what he needed to do that the guy nearly had a mental breakdown. So this guy, Bob Keane, who done the visual effects in this movie, and like I said, he done a fine job in this movie. He apparently was doing the same thing. He was like, basically living on the set, because there was so much work to be done. When you think of movies in that respect, especially big special effects movies, especially the ones back then in the 80s, because there's no CGI, and which is better in my view. No CGI movies are not great at all. They should be used very limited in my view, because I think they ruin a lot of movies. And movies are like corporations now. They always have been that way, but they've gone more and more. Have you ever been into a corporate seminar when people are talking about, and signing things off, and corporations talking about this and talking? You can see very quickly that it's mechanical. It's not. It's just to make money and to cover their ass, and that's the way movies have got to right now with CGI and all the rest of it, and they pump movies out way quicker than they used to do before, and not to the benefit of movies. It really isn't, because there has to be a certain element of innocence in a movie and a certain element of leaving people alone to do their work. And when corporations get in there too much and stick their beady eye, like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park, into what you're doing too much, you can see it in the movie. And these corporate people, which are basically empty souls walking around, empty, useless, mostly just people you wouldn't want at your dinner table, right? These people are not artistic. They're not, and even that word has got a bad rap over the last while. It just means that they're not insightful. They haven't really got really what it means to me to say, for instance, would be people that would be willing to do it no matter what. And this is what this film has got in spades. And obviously it cost £3 million to make, so it's not chicken feed, right? But this movie has elements in this film that most films really don't have, which is it has a good vibe to the movie and a good element of fun running through this horror movie, and a good premise too. If you have a good premise in a movie and it's executed well, and it plays to the audience in the right way, it depends what genre you're going for, it depends what vibe you're trying to create with the movie. But this movie knows what it is, and it executes it beautifully. And even though he didn't have much money, Anthony Hickox, it was his first film, and it was enough money. $3 million's enough, right? Geez, more than enough, right? So, but a lot of that goes to, tax nonsense, and, there's a lot of nonsense that goes on. Like I said, corporations have taken over fucking pretty much everything now, including our own lives, right? Because we're corporate identities walking around. What do you think that name is on your birth certificate? With all capital letters, capital. We're mini corporations. It's just a corporate planet. I was saying to someone not so long ago, saying, why don't they just change the name of the Earth? Instead of calling it Earth, why don't we just call it Planet Safety or Planet Corporation? Because that's what it is. And being human, being vulnerable, being an individual to a certain point, right, is trying to be taken away from us at every corner. And you can see it in these fucking movies that they're making today. These dizzy, silly, stupid ass fucking movies that are just robots are making them. Corporations are making them. And it's just like, oh, dude, with your agendas and all your nonsense and your crap. And it's infiltrated into everything. And corporations are the end of the fucking world, dude. But it's what you get when you have gangs of people screaming at other people. What do you think the police are? It's gangs of people screaming at other people and saying, hand over your money and we're going to tell you what's right and wrong, right? Even though they are the worst of the worst and they can't really be arrested or prosecuted because they are part of the gang, right? And you can see that with movies, and you can see that with, contemporary movies. But you look back at movies like Waxwork, and I'm sure it had elements of that in it in the production, and you're going to get that everywhere. And it's got worse, like I said, but they seem to be having fun making this movie. And there's one element of this movie that I thought was really good, right? And apart from all the other stuff that is in this movie, the the humor is brilliant in this film. There's a segment in this movie, in the Dracula segment, where there's a guy that's kind of like in the kitchen, and he's on a table, and it's just a bone of his leg and his foot is there, and it's like the vampires come down and pick the meat from his bone, from his leg for a snack, right? And the guy who played the part was so good at his little touches with his look of the eye, and they kept. First off, it was the rat that came in and was nibbling on his leg. Get rid of it! And he's screaming. That was really funny. And then one of the vampires comes in. He takes a bit of the meat and he takes it like it's an hors d'oeuvre, And then there's a fight that ensues. He keeps getting in the way. His leg keeps getting in the way, and he can't protect it. Right? But that kind of epitomizes this movie or it kind of it makes you think that this is what this movie is really about. It's about this tongue-in-cheek kind of humor that works a treat in this film, right? And even if it's the German teacher in an American class, going on like a dictator, talking about dictators in Germany, it's funny. It's just got good humor going through it. The amount of cigarettes they must have lit in this movie must have been like enough to put bloody Benson and Hedges out of business. So that's the thing that runs through the movie. And the main part for me, which is why I chose that picture at the front, is of one element in the movie of the Marquis de Sade, which is the best part of the film for me, or one of the best segments in the movie, because there's different segments in the film, right? So the Marquis de Sade came out with this phrase basically that said, sex without pain is like food without taste. And the young girl, played by Deborah Foreman in the movie, she has this kind of like hidden bondage fantasy. So she's always drawn to the Marquis de Sade section in the Waxwork Museum, and then she ends up going into it at the end, and she has to go through this whipping scene where she kind of orgasms and stuff, and it's pretty erotic, but it's handled very well, and the dialogue is very good, and it's a film really worth checking out. It's a film worth checking out if you're interested in movies that are not brilliant, but they're really watchable.